Welcome to Zoe Stories. My mom made me wear her outfit for a week. The morning sunlight filtered through the thin curtains, casting a soft glow across my bedroom. The familiar hum of the city outside mingled with the quiet ticking of my wall clock, a gentle reminder that time never slowed for anyone, not even for me. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the neatly folded clothes my mom had left on my chair the night before. My heart thumped with a mix of confusion, apprehension, and something else I didn't quite want to name. "Why me?" I whispered under my breath, tracing the delicate lace and pastel colors with my fingers. It wasn't just a shirt or a skirt. It was her outfit, the one she wore to meetings with friends and family, the one that made her look elegant and untouchable. And now, for reasons I didn't fully understand, I was expected to wear it for an entire week. I'm Alex, a 23-year-old university student living in a cozy apartment with my mom. I've always been somewhat private about my life, especially about certain personal experiments I indulged in behind closed doors. Cross-dressing had been a secret passion of mine for years, a way to escape the rigid expectations of being just a guy, a way to explore parts of myself that rarely saw the light of day. It wasn't about rebellion or attention. It was about feeling whole, even if only when no one was watching. Yet, despite my private indulgences, I had never shared this side of myself with anyone, not even my girlfriend, Sarah. She knew me as Alex, casual, slightly awkward, and entirely human. She didn't need to know about the skirts folded neatly in my drawer, the lipsticks I'd secretly tested, or the thrill of slipping into a pair of heels and feeling different, yet undeniably me. But my mom had always been observant. She noticed things others didn't. That was part of why I both loved and feared her. And now, with that outfit sitting on my chair, I felt that familiar mix of vulnerability and excitement stirring within me. I remembered the conversation from last night, vague yet pointed. She had smiled, her eyes twinkling with a mischief I hadn't seen since I was a child. "Alex," she said, tilting her head, "I think it's time you see how it feels to walk in someone else's shoes, literally. Try this for a week. You might learn a lot about yourself." I had laughed nervously, brushing it off as one of her whimsical ideas. But as soon as she left the room, her words settled like a weight on my chest. A week? In her clothes? My mind raced through a whirlwind of scenarios: embarrassment, thrill, humiliation, discovery. The apartment felt unusually quiet that morning, the kind of silence that amplifies every thought, every heartbeat. I took a deep breath and lifted the first piece of clothing, a soft, pastel blouse. The fabric was smoother than anything I'd ever felt, almost fragile. As I ran my fingers along the seams, I felt an odd pang of connection, as if I was holding a part of her life in my hands. The skirt came next, lightweight and flowing. I held it against me and noticed the way the sunlight made the colors shimmer, almost like a warning and an invitation at the same time. The heels she had left beside the outfit seemed impossibly tall, yet elegant, demanding confidence and balance. My pulse quickened, and I couldn't help but imagine what it would feel like to stand in them. Sarah's voice popped into my mind, a mix of teasing and affection from our previous conversations. "You'd look cute in anything, Alex," she had said once, during a casual moment of joking. But that was joking, wasn't it? Now, with my mom's outfit laid out before me, I wondered if it would really be cute, or if it would be a spectacle, a trap, a lesson I wasn't ready for. I glanced at the mirror across the room, half expecting to see my usual reflection staring back at me. But I hesitated. Something told me that this week, that reflection might change, and not just physically. I wondered if I could handle that. Could I face myself in this new form? Could I carry the secret, thrilling and terrifying, without faltering? As the morning stretched on, I made a decision. I would try, just for today. One day wouldn't be too hard, right? I laid the clothes carefully on my bed, methodically removing my casual t-shirt and jeans, replacing them with the delicate textures and colors my mom had chosen. The sensation of the fabric against my skin was startlingly intimate. I felt exposed, vulnerable, yet undeniably alive. The heels were the final piece of the puzzle. I sat down, balancing myself carefully as I slipped them on. My ankles protested slightly, unfamiliar with the new posture and sway, but I adjusted. I glanced in the mirror again. For the first time in my life, I saw both Alex and something more, something softer, more delicate, reflected back at me. It wasn't fully me, not yet, but it was tantalizingly close. My mom's instructions echoed in my mind. See how it feels to walk in someone else's shoes. More than that, I realized she wanted me to feel her world, even if just for a week. And somehow, amidst the anxiety, I felt a spark of curiosity. What would Sarah think? What would I discover about myself? Could I maintain this delicate balance between secrecy and revelation? As I stepped carefully around my small apartment, testing the sway of the skirt and the click of the heels, a sense of anticipation settled over me. This wasn't just about wearing her clothes. This was about stepping into a role, a persona, a world that had always been hidden from me, and maybe even from everyone else. I paused in front of the mirror one last time, taking in my reflection. Alex, in my mom's outfit, looking strangely elegant and undeniably exposed. My heart pounded, not just from the unfamiliar posture, but from the knowledge that this week would change everything. The thrill of the unknown coursed through me, mingling with fear and excitement in equal measure. And just like that, the stage was set. A week in my mom's outfit, 7 days of discovery, tension, and transformation. A week that would challenge my identity, my secrets, and perhaps even my relationship with Sarah. I took a deep breath, squared my shoulders, and whispered to my reflection. Let's see how far this goes. The moment I left my bedroom, the apartment felt different. Each step in the heels echoed softly against the hardwood floor, a delicate reminder that today wasn't like any other day. The pastel skirt swayed around my knees, making me hyper-aware of every movement, every glance I might cast toward a reflective surface. I wasn't just Alex anymore. I was something in between, a version of myself shaped by my mom's outfit, by her intentions, and by the week-long challenge she had imposed. I went into the kitchen, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee hit me. My mom was already there, humming softly, her eyes sharp yet playful when she saw me. "Morning, Alex," she said, her tone casual but her gaze lingering longer than usual. She didn't comment on the outfit, not directly, but I could feel her studying me, analyzing every detail. The flutter in my stomach wasn't from the heels alone. It was the awareness that she knew. "You're walking differently," she said after a moment, tilting her head. "Careful with those. Balance is key." I nodded, trying to act natural, though every step felt exaggerated, every sway exaggerated. My mom smiled knowingly, filling her cup with coffee and leaving me to navigate the small kitchen in the unfamiliar clothes. Her presence, calm and observing, made me feel like a subject in an experiment I hadn't agreed to, but couldn't refuse. After breakfast, I retreated to my bedroom again, unable to resist the mirror's pull. I had to see myself, had to confront the image I presented to the world in these clothes. The mirror reflected a careful blend of curiosity and hesitation in my eyes. The blouse clung gently to my frame, softening the lines I'd long considered unchangeable. The skirt made my legs feel longer, my movements more fluid. Even the heels added a strange elegance to my posture. I couldn't ignore the thrill coursing through me. Yet beneath that thrill was anxiety. What if someone came unexpectedly? What if Sarah saw me like this before I was ready? Every click of the heels, every slight brush of fabric against my skin reminded me that this wasn't just play. It was a test of control, discretion, and composure. The first challenge came sooner than I expected. My phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. "Hey, want to meet up later? I've got a surprise for you." My heart skipped. Could I go out like this? What if she saw me and laughed, or worse, judged me? I stared at the outfit, the soft fabrics and delicate textures, and realized I had a choice: retreat or embrace this challenge fully. The thrill of possibility won over hesitation. I typed back, "Sure, sounds good," my fingers trembling slightly as I hit send. The hours leading up to meeting Sarah were a roller coaster. I practiced walking, adjusting the skirt and heels, experimenting with different hairstyles, testing makeup subtly to see if I could blend into the persona my mom had unintentionally crafted. With each adjustment, I felt a mix of embarrassment, excitement, and empowerment. The reflection in the mirror became a companion in my experiment, a witness to the transformation. Reminder that this version of Alex was still very much me, but also something new. By mid-afternoon, I had mastered a tentative balance. My posture, my sway, even my gestures had adapted to the new outfit. And yet, the suspense lingered. Every knock at the door, every shadow passing the window made me freeze for a second, heart racing, imagining someone discovering my secret prematurely. Finally, it was time to leave. I opened the apartment door, feeling the cool breeze brush against my face, and stepped into the world as someone both familiar and completely foreign. The city felt sharper, brighter, more alive somehow. People passed by, oblivious to my inner turmoil, their casual glances both comforting and terrifying. I couldn't tell if I wanted someone to notice or to ignore me entirely. When I reached the cafe where Sarah was waiting, my anxiety spiked again. She waved from a table near the window, her smile bright and oblivious to the turmoil I carried with me. I approached cautiously, heels clicking on the pavement, skirt swaying with each step. She noticed my hesitance, tilting her head curiously. "You look different," she said, eyes wide with a mix of surprise and amusement. "Did you do something with your hair?" I laughed nervously, sitting down across from her. "Just trying something new," I said vaguely, hoping she wouldn't press further. But the truth was closer than I wanted to admit. I was trying something new, her world, her persona, for a week. As we chatted, I felt a strange duality. On one hand, I was Alex, sharing jokes and casual observations with Sarah. On the other hand, I was enveloped in a persona shaped by my mom's outfit, a delicate tension between secrecy and revelation. Every sip of coffee, every laugh, felt amplified, charged with the knowledge that this experiment could spiral in ways I hadn't predicted. By the time I returned home, my legs were sore from the heels, but my mind was buzzing with exhilaration. The apartment welcomed me back silently, as if holding its breath in anticipation of what was to come. I realized that this week wouldn't just test my ability to wear an outfit, it would test my identity, my confidence, and my relationship with everyone around me. And deep down, I couldn't help but wonder, was I ready for what my mom, and perhaps even Sarah, had in store for me? Returning home after meeting Sarah, I felt a mixture of relief and lingering anxiety. The apartment was quiet, the kind of silence that amplifies every heartbeat, every thought, every whisper of fabric brushing against skin. I leaned against the doorframe, letting out a slow breath. My mom's challenge wasn't just about clothes, it was about confronting myself in ways I hadn't anticipated. I kicked off the heels, massaging my sore feet, and stared at the outfit still clinging to my body. It was more than clothing. It was a persona, a mask that revealed as much as it concealed. Every time I looked in the mirror, I saw Alex. Yes, but also a version of me molded by softness, delicacy, and an unfamiliar elegance. The thrill of cross-dressing had never felt so vivid, so charged with stakes beyond my control. As I moved through the apartment, each step reminded me of how exposed I felt. The swish of the skirt, the gentle sway of the blouse, even the subtle scent of my mom's perfume lingering on the fabric, it all made me hyper-aware of my body, of the persona I carried. I realized that the challenge wasn't just about wearing her outfit. It was about inhabiting it, embracing it, and keeping it secret from everyone, especially Sarah. I sat on the couch, trying to calm my racing thoughts. I wondered how much Sarah suspected. Did she notice the subtle changes in my posture, my voice, the way I walked? Or had she simply attributed it to mood, fashion, or coincidence? The uncertainty gnawed at me. Part of me wanted to tell her everything, to share this secret thrill, but another part feared judgment, embarrassment, and the fragility of the balance I was trying to maintain. Determined to immerse myself fully, I decided to explore the apartment as if it were a stage. I practiced walking, sitting, and even casual gestures, paying attention to how the skirt swayed, how my arms moved, how my shoulders carried the new weight of femininity imposed upon me. With each careful movement, I felt the tension between vulnerability and empowerment intensify. The mirror became my confidant. I studied every angle, adjusting hair, smoothing fabric, testing smiles, and subtle expressions. The reflection staring back wasn't just Alex in his mom's clothes. It was someone more nuanced, layered, and uncertain. My chest tightened with anticipation and fear. Could I maintain this identity all week? Could I keep it secret from everyone while exploring the thrill of transformation? A sudden knock at the door shattered my concentration. My heart jumped into my throat. Who could it be? The timing was perfect, or disastrous. I peeked through the peephole. It was the delivery guy with the package. I exhaled, a nervous laugh escaping me, and signed for it quickly. The mundane interaction felt amplified, every slight movement, every gesture under scrutiny, even if imaginary. After closing the door, I leaned against it, trembling slightly from adrenaline. It wasn't just about being caught. It was about living in this dual reality, where a single unexpected visitor could unravel the delicate balance I had created. My mind raced with scenarios. Sarah arriving early, a neighbor seeing me through the window, my mom returning and finding me exhausted yet exhilarated in her clothes. Determined not to succumb to fear, I refocused on the transformation itself. I decided to experiment with subtle makeup, something I had avoided until now. A swipe of concealer, a hint of color on my lips, a touch of eyeliner. Each stroke heightened both the thrill and the vulnerability. I looked at the reflection and realized the Alex staring back was evolving, not just in appearance but in presence. There was confidence in the eyes, a cautious boldness in the posture. Yet, the uncertainty lingered, a constant reminder of the stakes. The afternoon passed in a blur of experimentation and tension. I moved from room to room, each space a test of my ability to inhabit this persona. I practiced casual conversation aloud, imagining Sarah's reactions, envisioning friends, and even strangers noticing something subtly different. The exercise wasn't just about movement or clothing. It was about embodying a version of myself that was both familiar and unknown. As evening approached, the suspense intensified. I could hear faint sounds from the street below, people returning from work, neighbors chatting, a dog barking. Each sound amplified my awareness of my vulnerability. I paced slowly, feeling the sway of the skirt and the pressure of the blouse, mentally preparing for any interruption. My senses were heightened. Every shadow, every click of the heels I had put back on, seemed laden with possibility. Then my phone buzzed. Another message from Sarah. "You're taking forever, can't wait to see you." My chest tightened. Could I go out again like this with higher stakes? Part of me wanted to hide, retreat, and change back into familiar jeans and a t-shirt. But another part, the thrill-seeking part, urged me to step forward, to embrace the challenge, to test the limits of this experiment. I stood in front of the mirror one last time before leaving, examining the reflection that had become increasingly complex. Alex was still there, yes, but layered over him was a delicate tension, a thrill, a tentative confidence. I adjusted the skirt one more time, balanced carefully in the heels, and whispered to myself, "You can do this. Just one more step. One more moment. You're ready." With that, I opened the door and stepped out, each click of the heels echoing the pulse of excitement, fear, and suspense coursing through me. This week wasn't just about clothing. It was about transformation, self-discovery, and the delicate dance of secrecy and revelation. And I had only just begun. The evening air was cooler than I expected as I stepped back into the apartment, heels clicking softly against the floor. My legs ached, my back protested slightly, yet a strange exhilaration kept me upright. Each step I took reminded me that this week wasn't just a superficial challenge. It was a test of endurance, self-control, and identity. Wearing my mom's clothes had shifted something inside me. I could feel it in the way I held myself, the way my reflection followed me in every shiny surface, the way my pulse quickened even at the slightest sound. I dropped my bag on the couch, glancing at the outfit neatly laid out on my bed. Even after hours in it, the fabric still felt foreign, yet comforting. I touched the blouse again, marveling at the softness against my fingertips, the delicate stitching that spoke of care and elegance. My mind replayed Sarah's reactions from earlier, her curiosity, the faint amusement, the subtle recognition that something had changed. The thought of her seeing me like this, fully immersed in my mom's challenge, made my cheeks flush and my heart race. To distract myself from spiraling thoughts, I decided to practice more with makeup. I set up a small mirror on the desk, bringing out subtle shades that my mom often used herself. Concealer, blush, a gentle sweep of eyeliner. I applied each with meticulous care, watching my reflection morph subtly, but undeniably. Alex was still there, of course, but layered over him was a persona that felt delicate, vulnerable, and thrillingly exposed. Each stroke of makeup heightened both the excitement and the anxiety coursing through me. As I studied my reflection, I realized something important. This week wasn't just about clothes or appearances. It was about presence. How I carried myself, how I navigated spaces, how I interacted with others, even if only Sarah or the rare delivery person, or the occasional neighbor. The thrill of cross-dressing had always been private before, but now it was expanding into a precarious public sphere. Every movement, every gesture, every glance felt loaded with potential discovery. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Sarah. "Hey, I'll be a little late." "Don't get bored," I smiled nervously, running a hand through my hair. I wasn't bored, far from it. My mind raced through every possible scenario. What if she came home early? What if a friend of hers stopped by unexpectedly? The stakes had grown from a private experiment to a high-wire act where one slip could reveal everything. To calm myself, I practiced walking again, heels clicking softly across the apartment. I tried different postures, swaying my hips subtly, testing the flow of the skirt, adjusting the blouse with delicate gestures. Each movement felt more natural than before, yet the awareness of potential exposure kept my nerves taut. I realized that mastering this persona was as much mental as physical. I needed to inhabit it fully, convincingly, and discreetly. Hours passed in a haze of rehearsal and self-observation. I experimented with gestures, how I held a cup of tea, how I crossed my legs, how I tilted my head while speaking. Each nuance mattered. Each detail contributed to the persona I was crafting. I caught myself smiling in the mirror, marveling at the way the reflection seemed almost alive, almost separate from the Alex I had always known. There was a thrill in this duality, a dangerous exhilaration in walking the line between exposure and concealment. A sudden noise outside startled me. A car door slamming, footsteps on the sidewalk. My pulse quickened and I froze, scanning the apartment for any sign of intrusion. Nothing. Just the familiar quiet of the evening. But the brief spike in adrenaline reminded me that the suspense wasn't going away. Every sound, every shadow, every unexpected knock could tip the balance, revealing the secret I had nurtured so carefully. Determined to reclaim my composure, I returned to the mirror, adjusting the outfit one final time. The blouse smoothed neatly over my shoulders, the skirt falling gracefully around my knees, heels balanced perfectly beneath me. I studied the reflection, noticing subtle shifts in expression, posture, and presence. Alex was evolving, not just in appearance but in demeanor, in confidence, in vulnerability. Then it happened, the first real emotional jolt of the week. My mom returned home unexpectedly, earlier than I anticipated. I hadn't heard her keys in the door yet, and the sudden sound of her entering made my heart skip a beat. I froze, caught mid-adjustment, fabric in my hands, cheeks burning. Her footsteps grew louder as she approached the living room. "Alex," she called softly, a hint of amusement in her voice. "I thought you'd be relaxing by now." I swallowed hard, adjusting the skirt hastily and trying to appear casual. "Yeah, just testing some things," I mumbled, my voice betraying a fraction of the tension coursing through me. She entered the room, eyes scanning me carefully, yet she said nothing immediately. Instead, She smiled faintly, a knowing glint in her eyes that made my stomach churn. "You're really embracing the challenge," she said after a moment, her tone casual but layered with subtle meaning. My pulse raced as I realized she had observed everything: the way I walked, the way I moved, the way I carried myself. The moment was electrifying. Fear, thrill, vulnerability, and exhilaration collided, leaving me breathless. My mom's presence wasn't judgmental. It was scrutinizing, teasing, yet supportive in a way that made the stakes even higher. I realized then that this week wasn't just about clothing. It was about identity, discovery, and navigating a delicate balance between exposure and concealment. By the time she left the room again, I was trembling slightly, not from the heels or the outfit, but from the realization that I had survived the first real test. The thrill of transformation was no longer theoretical. It was immediate, charged, and utterly intoxicating. I sank onto the couch, running a hand through my hair and letting out a shaky breath. The mirror still reflected Alex, but also a layered, evolving persona shaped by my mom's challenge. The week ahead promised more tests, more suspense, more opportunities to explore both fear and exhilaration. And deep down, I knew that I was ready, or at least ready enough, to embrace whatever came next. The evening deepened into night, and the apartment grew quieter, almost ominously so. The city outside buzzed faintly in the distance, but inside, each creak of the floorboards, each sigh of the heating system, felt amplified in my heightened state of awareness. Wearing my mom's outfit had transformed not just my appearance, but my perception of the world. Every movement, every sound, every shadow seemed loaded with potential for discovery, embarrassment, or exhilaration. I moved cautiously to the living room mirror, heels clicking softly on the hardwood floor. I had grown more accustomed to the sway of the skirt and the delicate pressure of the blouse, but the unfamiliarity still lingered like an undercurrent beneath my confidence. I studied my reflection meticulously, adjusting hair, makeup, and posture. Each detail mattered. The challenge wasn't just to wear the outfit, but to inhabit it convincingly, to make the persona feel natural, almost seamless. As I practiced a subtle tilt of the head and a soft, controlled smile, my phone buzzed once more. A text from Sarah. "Hey, I might swing by for a late-night snack." Don't be scared, my chest tightened. This was it, the real test. Could I remain composed under scrutiny? Could I present this persona convincingly, without faltering? The thrill and fear coiled tightly together, and I felt my stomach knot with anticipation. I quickly assessed my options. The apartment was small, and there was no hiding place for a sudden visitor. Retreating into my bedroom was an option, but it felt like conceding defeat. No, I needed to face this to maintain control, to see how far I could push the boundaries of this challenge. Taking a deep breath, I adjusted the skirt one last time, checked the heels for balance, and smoothed the blouse across my shoulders. The knock came sooner than I anticipated. My heart leapt into my throat as I moved toward the door, walking carefully, each step deliberate. I opened it to see Sarah standing there, a mischievous smile on her face. "Hey," she said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "You ready for some snacks?" I swallowed hard, trying to maintain composure. "Why, yeah, sure," I stammered, gesturing toward the kitchen. My heels made my movements feel delicate and deliberate, almost like a performance. Sarah's eyes flickered downward briefly, catching the sway of the skirt, the subtle hint of makeup on my face. A tiny smirk tugged at her lips, though she didn't comment immediately. As we settled on the couch with snacks in hand, conversation flowed, light, casual, teasing, but beneath it all, I felt the tension coil tighter and tighter. Every laugh, every glance, every accidental brush of the knees against the couch heightened my awareness. Sarah seemed relaxed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was subtly analyzing me, measuring the changes she noticed. I excused myself to the kitchen, ostensibly to refill our drinks, but really to steady my nerves. I leaned against the counter, feeling the fabric of the skirt against my thighs, the blouse across my chest. My reflection in the shiny surface of the refrigerator caught my eye. Alex was still there, Yes, but layered over him was a persona that felt daring, delicate, and exposed. The thrill of cross-dressing had always been private, but now it pulsed with intensity, charged by the stakes of Sarah's presence. Returning to the living room, I realized how much my mind had adapted to the new persona. I walked with a subtle confidence I hadn't felt before, balancing the heels and the skirt as though they were extensions of myself. And yet, every moment was tempered by fear. The fear of discovery, the fear of judgment, the fear of missteps that could unravel everything. Sarah leaned back on the couch, eyes sparkling with curiosity. "You're different tonight," she said softly. "I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's something." Her voice trailed off, and I felt my pulse spike. Could she sense what I was doing? Did she recognize the subtle transformation that went beyond clothes? I smiled nervously, trying to act casual. "Just trying something new," I said, brushing a stray lock of hair behind my ear. Every movement felt deliberate, every gesture calculated. I had become hyper-aware of the duality I carried. Alex, the familiar self, and this new persona shaped by my mom's outfit, delicate and exposed yet thrillingly alive. The night progressed, and I noticed subtle challenges arising. The heels made movement around the small apartment tricky. Each step required concentration. Each pivot demanded balance. The skirt occasionally shifted awkwardly, demanding adjustment, reminding me that the persona wasn't just about posture or makeup, but about inhabiting a space fully and gracefully. Every slight mishap amplified the suspense, each tiny stumble a potential unraveling of the fragile confidence I had built. At one point, Sarah laughed at something I said, and our knees brushed lightly. My body froze, the sensation both thrilling and terrifying. The awareness of being physically close while maintaining the persona heightened every emotion: embarrassment, excitement, vulnerability, all mingling together. I realized that this week wasn't just a challenge of clothing, it was a test of emotional endurance, of managing internal tension while projecting calm and confidence. Later, alone in the apartment after Sarah left, I sank onto the couch, exhausted but exhilarated. My reflection in the window showed the faint glow of the city outside, merging with the image of Alex in my mom's outfit. The thrill of transformation pulsed through me, mingled with the knowledge that the stakes were higher than I had imagined. This was no longer just a private indulgence. It was a delicate, high-stakes dance of identity, secrecy, and emotional tension. I realized then that the week ahead would push me further than I expected. The outfits, the persona, the duality of self, they were just the beginning. The true challenge lay in navigating the fine line between vulnerability and confidence, secrecy and exposure, thrill and fear. And despite the anxiety, a part of me couldn't wait to see how far I could go. The following morning, sunlight streamed through the apartment windows, warm but unforgiving. My body ached from the previous day's prolonged hours in heels, but my mind was buzzing with anticipation. Today felt different. It wasn't just about wearing my mom's outfit anymore. It was about owning it, moving through the day with the grace and poise that the persona demanded. I dressed carefully, selecting another outfit my mom had left for me. This one was softer in color, a delicate pastel dress with subtle embroidery along the hem. The heels were slightly lower than yesterday, though still enough to make each step deliberate. I caught my reflection in the mirror and adjusted my hair, taking in the reflection that had become increasingly complex over the past day and a half. Alex was still there, but layered on top was someone more tentative, more vulnerable, yet growing in confidence with each passing hour. The apartment felt charged with possibility. I moved deliberately, heels clicking softly against the floor, the fabric of the dress brushing my legs. I practiced gestures, tilts of the head, small expressions that would make the persona feel believable, almost second nature. And yet, the tension never left. Every creak of the floor, every sound outside, every phone buzz reminded me that discovery was always a heartbeat away. Sarah called unexpectedly. "Hey, Alex, or should I say my new style icon? Can we hang out later?" My heart raced. This was the first real chance to test the persona outside the apartment for an extended period. I could retreat, change back into familiar clothes, and avoid the risk, but the thrill of challenge was too enticing. I agreed, my voice steadier than I expected, and we set a time. The hours before meeting her were a whirlwind of preparation. I practiced walking, adjusting the dress, checking the sway of the fabric, and making subtle refinements to my makeup. Each moment heightened my awareness of the persona, of the balance between Alex and the new version of myself shaped by my mom's outfit. I realized that the clothing wasn't just external, it had begun to influence my posture, my confidence, and even my way of thinking. Finally, the moment arrived. I stepped outside, the dress flowing around my knees, heels clicking with every step. The city felt sharper, brighter, almost as if it recognized my transformation. People passed by without noticing, yet every glance felt loaded with possibility. I felt exposed, vulnerable, yet strangely exhilarated. Each step was a test of balance, composure, and control, a delicate dance between being noticed and blending in. Meeting Sarah at the cafe was nerve-wracking. Her eyes widened slightly as I approached, a faint smirk tugging at her lips. "Wow, you're really embracing this," she said softly, a mix of surprise and amusement in her tone. My pulse quickened. Could she sense the extent of my transformation? Or was she simply noticing subtle changes in posture and expression? We spent the afternoon together, chatting and laughing, yet beneath it all, I felt the tension coil tighter and tighter. Every movement, every glance, every accidental brush of the knees against the chair heightened my awareness. Sarah seemed relaxed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was subtly analyzing me, measuring the changes she noticed. Returning home, the apartment felt both comforting and charged with suspense. The quiet amplified every thought, every heartbeat. I moved through the space cautiously, heels clicking softly, skirt swaying. Each reflection in the mirror, each glance at my own hands, reminded me of the duality I carried: Alex, the familiar self, and the persona shaped by my mom's outfit, delicate, exposed, yet growing more confident with each passing hour. Suddenly, a sharp knock at the door startled me. My pulse leapt. Who could it be? I peeked through the peephole, no one familiar, just a delivery. I exhaled, trying to steady my nerves. The incident reminded me that suspense wasn't just about dramatic moments. It was in the mundane, the unexpected, the everyday possibility of discovery. Alone again, I moved to the mirror, adjusting the dress and posture. The reflection was mesmerizing. I saw Alex, yes, but also someone entirely new, a delicate balance of vulnerability, thrill, and confidence. The week was shaping me in ways I hadn't anticipated. The thrill of cross-dressing had evolved from a private indulgence to a high-stakes exploration of identity, secrecy, and emotional resilience. I realized then that the challenge wasn't just physical or aesthetic. It was emotional, psychological, and relational. Every interaction, every step outside, every glance in the mirror was a test of courage and adaptability. The week ahead promised more surprises, more opportunities to explore the fragile boundaries of self, and more tension as the world observed without fully understanding. As night fell, I sat on the couch, heels off, dress gently brushing my legs, heart racing with anticipation and exhaustion. The reflection in the window showed both Alex and the persona I had been crafting, layered, evolving, and intoxicatingly real. The buildup of suspense, internal conflict, and emotional tension had reached a peak. The stage was set. Tomorrow promised new challenges, and the week ahead would push me further than I had imagined. I whispered to myself, a mixture of excitement and anxiety in my voice. This is only the beginning. Let's see how far it goes. The morning sun filtered through the curtains, pale and hesitant, as if sensing the tension that hung in the apartment. Today wasn't like the previous days. Today felt heavier, charged with a subtle electricity I couldn't ignore. Wearing my mom's outfit had shifted from playful experimentation to a full-blown test of composure, identity, and secrecy. My reflection in the mirror looked almost defiant, yet beneath it simmered a nervous energy I couldn't conceal. I chose the outfit for today carefully, a flowing floral dress with delicate lace along the sleeves, paired with slightly higher heels than yesterday. The familiar sway of the skirt as I walked across the bedroom floor reminded me of just how far this week had pushed me. Each step was a challenge, each glance in the mirror an internal negotiation between Alex, my true self, and the persona I had been crafting. The first sign that the day would be different came unexpectedly. My phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. "Hey, want to come to a little get-together tonight? Trust me, you'll have fun." My chest tightened instantly. Social interaction outside the apartment meant exposure, a public performance in heels and a dress, with Sarah watching closely. My mind raced through scenarios, weighing risks, calculating reactions, imagining whispers, laughter, or judgment. The suspense coiled tightly in my stomach. I spent the morning rehearsing, walking, adjusting posture, checking makeup, even practicing soft expressions in the mirror. Each small gesture was charged with significance. How I tilted my head, how I crossed my legs, how I held my cup of tea, everything had become a performance, a delicate balancing act between confidence and vulnerability. By midday, I was a bundle of anticipation and nerves. The apartment, usually comforting, felt like a stage. Shadows seemed sharper, echoes louder, every creak amplified. I realized that the challenge wasn't just about clothes or appearance anymore. It was about inhabiting a persona convincingly in real time, under scrutiny, and amidst the unpredictable dynamics of the outside world. The suspense escalated further when my mom returned home unexpectedly early. I hadn't anticipated her timing, and the sound of her keys jangling in the hallway made my pulse spike. I froze, fabric brushing against my fingers as I adjusted the dress nervously. Her footsteps approached, deliberate yet casual. "Alex," she said softly, stepping into the room. "You're really committing to this challenge, huh?" I swallowed hard, trying to steady my voice. "Why, just trying to get it right," I said, adjusting the skirt hastily. My heels clicked against the floor, betraying my tension, but she didn't comment, just watched with a faint, knowing smile. The look in her eyes, amusement mixed with scrutiny, made my stomach twist. She had observed everything, yet her silence amplified the suspense, leaving me exposed to her judgment and expectations simultaneously. Once she left, the day dragged on, a mixture of preparation and anxiety. I rehearsed how I would behave at Sarah's get-together, imagining every interaction, every casual touch, every glance. Each scenario heightened both fear and thrill. The balance between Alex and the new persona had never been more precarious. I felt exposed in ways I hadn't anticipated, and yet the transformation was intoxicating. Finally, evening arrived. I took a deep breath, adjusted my hair, smoothed the fabric of the dress, and stepped outside. The cool night air brushed against my cheeks, but I felt the heat of tension radiating through my body. Each step on the sidewalk was deliberate, measured, as if I were crossing an invisible tightrope. People passed by, oblivious, yet each glance I imagined from strangers heightened my awareness, my self-consciousness, and my excitement. Arriving at Sarah's apartment, I felt my heart pound. She greeted me with a mischievous smile, her eyes twinkling as she looked me over. "You really went all out," she said, stepping aside to let me in. I swallowed, feeling the thrill of being noticed in public, yet the vulnerability of exposure was palpable. Inside, the apartment was filled with people, Sarah's friends, a few acquaintances. The laughter, chatter, and movement created a dynamic, unpredictable environment, perfect for testing both my composure and my persona. Every interaction demanded careful navigation. Smiles had to be convincing, movements elegant, gestures controlled. One misstep could reveal everything I had worked for over the past days. I mingled cautiously, each conversation a delicate balance. Compliments on my appearance sent both thrill and anxiety through me. I had to respond naturally, yet every word, every inflection, carried the weight of dual identity. Alex and the persona shaped by my mom's outfit were intertwined, coexisting yet competing for control of how I presented myself. Then, a subtle incident amplified the suspense. Someone accidentally brushed against my arm, the dress shifting slightly, the lace catching. My heart jumped. The moment was brief, almost trivial, yet it symbolized the fragility of my control. I adjusted the fabric discreetly, praying no one noticed, and continued the conversation, muscles tense, eyes alert. Later, Sarah leaned closer, whispering, "You're doing amazing. I can tell you're enjoying this, aren't you?" My chest tightened. The thrill of cross-dressing had always been private, but now it was amplified, exposed, scrutinized by someone I trusted yet feared judgment from. I nodded, words failing me, caught between exhilaration and anxiety. The night stretched on, each moment intensifying suspense, testing composure, and revealing the depth of transformation. The duality within me, Alex and the persona, was no longer separate. They had merged, creating a version of myself that was confident yet vulnerable, delicate yet daring, thrillingly exposed yet carefully controlled. By the time I returned home, the adrenaline was exhausting. The apartment felt both welcoming and charged with residual tension. I collapsed on the couch, heels off, dress gently brushing my legs, heart racing with exhilaration and relief. The reflection in the window merged with the city lights outside, a reminder of how public exposure had tested my persona. I realized then that this week, this challenge had been more than clothing. It had reshaped my perception of self, amplified emotional vulnerability, and created a thrilling, high-stakes suspense that was far from over. The climax was just beginning, and the events of the coming days would push the transformation and the tension to unimaginable heights. The next day began with an almost tangible tension in the apartment. My muscles ached slightly from the previous night, but my mind was sharper than ever, primed for the challenges ahead. Sarah's praise lingered, but it also weighed on me. Public exposure had proven exhilarating, yet terrifying. Each glance from others, each whispered comment, each accidental brush of fabric or gesture had reminded me just how precarious my balance was. I carefully chose today's outfit, a soft, flowing blouse paired with a high-waisted skirt that accentuated the subtle elegance I had begun to feel in myself. The heels were moderate, not too high, but enough to make every step deliberate. I stared at the mirror for several long minutes, adjusting makeup and hair. The reflection was almost hypnotic. Alex, yes, but layered with a persona that was delicate, aware, and tense with the possibility of discovery. The thrill of cross-dressing had intensified into something deeper, a suspended tension between exhilaration and fear. Morning was quiet, but the peace was deceptive. My phone buzzed, another message from Sarah. "Hey, thought we could go shopping today. Something casual but fun. Are you up for it?" My heart jumped. Public outings were the ultimate test. No apartment walls, no mirrors to adjust the persona in secret, just the open world, full of unpredictable eyes and the added pressure of Sarah's scrutiny. I dressed quickly yet meticulously, each step measured. The skirt swayed as I walked, heels clicking against the floor. Each movement felt deliberate, charged with subtle tension. I glanced in the mirror one last time, noting the delicate curve of my shoulders, the tilt of my head, the softness of my smile. Alex was still present, yes, but this persona, the one shaped by my mom's challenge, had begun to take on its own rhythm, its own presence. The streets outside were bustling. People moved quickly, unaware of my transformation, yet each passing glance seemed amplified in my awareness. My heartbeat raced with every accidental stare, every footstep echoing against the pavement. Sarah walked beside me, casual yet observant, occasionally offering a teasing comment that made my pulse spike. Was she testing me? Or just enjoying my reaction? The uncertainty itself was intoxicating, a suspended tension I couldn't ignore. We entered a boutique, the cool, air-conditioned space a sharp contrast to the street outside. I moved carefully between racks of clothing, adjusting my posture, subtly practicing gestures I had rehearsed in private. Sarah lingered close, sometimes brushing my arm accidentally, her eyes flicking down subtly as if evaluating my every movement. The sensation sent a shiver through me. Part excitement, part fear, part vulnerability. Then, the unexpected happened. A friend of Sarah's, someone I had met only once before, approached from the next aisle. "Wow, Alex. You look different." "Really great, actually," they said with a friendly smile. My chest tightened. Exposure. Validation. Fear. Excitement. The duality within me surged, merging Alex and the persona into a tense, delicate balance. I managed a polite smile, nodding, carefully controlling gestures so that nothing revealed the internal storm. As the day progressed, minor mishaps escalated suspense. The skirt shifted awkwardly while trying on clothes, a zipper snagged briefly, a misplaced heel click echoed across the boutique floor. Each small incident was amplified, a test of poise, composure, and secrecy. The thrill of cross-dressing had transformed into a high-stakes navigation of potential disaster at every turn. After leaving the boutique, we wandered through a cafe for coffee. Sarah's friends were there, casual and chatty. I sat, careful to cross my legs elegantly, heels balanced, hands poised. Every smile, every laugh, every word had to appear natural, convincing. The persona had to coexist seamlessly with Alex, each gesture calibrated, each expression measured. The stress was intense, but the exhilaration even stronger. Suddenly, the suspense peaked when Sarah excused herself briefly, leaving me at the table alone. A stranger at the next table glanced my way and smiled politely. My body stiffened. The eyes of a stranger were nothing compared to friends or Sarah, but now, every reaction, every subtle observation became a challenge. Could I maintain composure? Could I exist in this public persona without faltering? I sipped my coffee slowly, reminding myself of the careful balance I had cultivated over the past days. By the time Sarah returned, my pulse had settled slightly, but the tension remained. "You're handling this really well," she said softly, leaning close. Her whisper carried both amusement and approval, a dual sensation that made my cheeks flush. The thrill of transformation, coupled with the anxiety of potential exposure, had reached a new level. Returning home was a relief, but the apartment felt charged, the calm deceptive. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye, heels off now, skirt resting gently around my legs. The persona had grown stronger, more confident, yet vulnerable beneath the surface. I realized then that this week had done more than push me to wear my mom's outfit. It had transformed my understanding of identity, vulnerability, and emotional courage. I sank onto the couch, taking a deep breath. The suspense, the fear, the exhilaration, all had intensified beyond what I expected. The challenges had forced me to integrate Alex with a persona shaped by my mom's clothes, a delicate but thrilling duality that now defined my every movement, thought, and emotion. The climax was far from over, and the events of the next days would test the boundaries of this transformation even further. By the late afternoon, the adrenaline from the morning's outing had faded, leaving me exhausted but unable to relax. The apartment was quiet, the kind of quiet that magnifies every thought, every heartbeat, every flicker of uncertainty. I sank onto the couch, heels off, dress brushing softly against my legs, and stared at the reflection in the window. Alex was still there, yes, but layered over him was the persona shaped by my mom's challenge, delicate, tense, vulnerable, yet increasingly confident. I had barely caught my breath when a sudden knock at the door jolted me upright. My heart raced uncontrollably. Who could it be? Sarah had mentioned no plans, and my mom was at work. Carefully, I approached, every step measured to avoid drawing attention to the heels I had put back on in a nervous instinct. Peering through the peephole, I saw a delivery man holding a package, but my pulse refused to slow. Opening the door, I accepted the parcel with a trembling hand, careful to maintain composure. The man smiled politely and left, unaware of the storm he had triggered. I closed the door slowly, leaning against it for support. The package sat on the floor, innocuous, yet somehow monumental. The suspense of the day had left me keyed up, and even small events now felt like turning points. I tore the packaging open carefully. Inside was a surprise, a set of shoes my mom had ordered for me as part of the week's challenge. The heels were higher than anything I had worn so far, sleek and elegant, daring me to step even further into the persona I had been cultivating. Holding them in my hands, I felt a mixture of thrill and fear. Could I manage them? Would I stumble, reveal myself, or falter? The stakes felt suddenly tangible. Determined, I slipped the shoes on. They fit perfectly, but each step across the room now required full attention. The apartment felt smaller, every creak amplified, every shadow loaded with potential exposure. I practiced walking back and forth, adjusting the sway of the skirt, the tilt of my head, the subtle expressions I had rehearsed countless times. Yet with each step, the tension coiled tighter, a reminder of the precarious balance I was maintaining. A sudden sound at the door made me freeze, a light knock, almost hesitant. My pulse spiked, heels unsteady under my weight. I peeked through the peephole. It was Sarah. My heart leapt, and I felt a rush of adrenaline so sharp it made my knees weak. She stepped inside casually, smiling, her eyes immediately catching the subtle adjustments I had made to the outfit and makeup. "You're really committed to this, huh?" she teased softly, stepping closer. Her presence amplified every emotion: thrill, fear, exhilaration, vulnerability. I swallowed hard, trying to appear casual, but my pulse betrayed me. Sarah's eyes scanned me, observant, teasing, approving. The suspense of potential exposure, combined with the intensity of her attention, made my head spin. We moved to the living room, sitting close but not too close, the fabric of my skirt brushing against my legs. Conversation flowed, light yet charged with subtle tension. Every glance from Sarah, every accidental brush of hands, every tilt of her head seemed loaded with meaning. The persona I had cultivated merged almost seamlessly with Alex, but the stakes had never been higher. Each gesture, each word, each movement was a test of composure and courage. Then the suspense peaked. The phone buzzed with a message from my mom. "Hope you're enjoying the challenge." "Keep it up," I froze. The message a reminder that she had been observing more than I realized. The thrill of transformation was now intertwined with scrutiny, expectation, and the constant possibility of missteps. My hands shook slightly as I set the phone down, aware that the smallest lapse could unravel the delicate balance I had spent the week building. Sarah's attention sharpened, a teasing smirk on her lips. "What was that?" she asked softly. I hesitated, heart racing. "Just a message from, Mom," I muttered, trying to sound casual. Her eyebrows arched slightly, and I felt the weight of her curiosity pressing down. The suspense was almost unbearable, a tightrope I was walking with no margin for error. I realized then that the week, the outfits, the heels, the makeup, they were more than external challenges. They had become catalysts, transforming my perception of self, amplifying vulnerability, and intensifying emotional courage. The persona I had cultivated wasn't just a disguise. It had become a tangible, living part of me, coexisting with Alex in a precarious, thrilling balance. The evening stretched, each moment a delicate negotiation of exposure, poise, and secrecy. A slight stumble in the heels sent a shiver through me, but I recovered gracefully, masking the panic with a practiced smile. Every glance from Sarah, every casual comment from a passerby, every minor mishap reinforced the suspense, the intensity, and the exhilaration of living fully in the persona I had created. By the time Sarah left, I was exhausted but electrified. The apartment felt both comforting and charged, the quiet deceptive after the tension of the day. My reflection in the mirror revealed a layered duality, Alex and the persona intertwined, vulnerable yet daring, cautious yet confident. I sank onto the couch, heels off, dress brushing softly against my legs, heart still racing. I whispered to myself, breath shaky, with exhilaration and relief. This is what it feels like to walk the line, to balance fear and thrill, to become someone else while still being me. The next morning, the apartment felt unusually silent, almost as if it were holding its breath in anticipation of the events to come. I sat on the edge of the bed, adjusting the outfit my mom had selected for me. A sleek, fitted dress with a soft pastel pattern and delicate lace along the hem. The heels were higher than I had attempted before, their thin structure demanding careful, deliberate steps. Each glance in the mirror reminded me of how precarious the week had become. Alex was still present, but layered over him was a persona growing bolder, more daring, yet still vulnerable. A sudden knock at the door made me freeze. My pulse spiked. I wasn't expecting anyone. I peeked through the peephole. It was Sarah. My heart jumped. The thrill of being observed, the anxiety of maintaining composure in her presence, made my body tense. She stepped inside casually, eyes glinting with curiosity and amusement. "Ready for today's adventure?" she asked, her voice light but charged with unspoken expectation. I nodded, trying to appear confident. Every movement was deliberate, each step measured in the heels, every tilt of my head a carefully rehearsed gesture. As we walked out into the bustling streets, my senses sharpened. The city felt more alive, every glance from passers-by magnified in my awareness. The duality of Alex and the persona was on full display, not hidden behind walls, not shielded by privacy. Sarah led me to a small gathering at a friend's house. The event was casual but lively, filled with people I didn't know well. Every interaction, every conversation, felt like a test of balance. Compliments on my appearance, subtle glances, and accidental touches from strangers heightened both thrill and fear. The stakes had grown beyond the apartment. Exposure was now public, and maintaining composure had become a high-stakes performance. The suspense escalated when a friend accidentally brushed against my arm, the dress shifting slightly. My heartbeat surged. One wrong move, one stumble, and the delicate balance of persona and reality could unravel. I adjusted the skirt subtly, keeping my composure, but the tension coiled tighter with every passing minute. Sarah's eyes caught mine briefly, a mischievous smile playing on her lips. "You're handling this really well," she whispered, a mixture of approval and teasing in her tone. As the afternoon progressed, minor challenges compounded. A spilled drink required careful navigation across the crowded room, each step in the heels a test of coordination. A sudden comment from a friend made me laugh at precisely the right moment, masking the anxiety bubbling beneath the surface. The persona I had cultivated merged almost seamlessly with Alex, but the stress of exposure was relentless, a constant undercurrent beneath the laughter and casual conversation. Then, a surprising obstacle arose. The host of the gathering suggested a small dance activity. Panic surged through me. Dancing in heels, with a crowd watching, was an entirely new challenge. My palms sweated, and my legs trembled slightly. Sarah leaned closer, whispering encouragement. "You can do this. Just follow my lead." Her proximity and support steadied me, but the tension remained, a thrilling mixture of fear, excitement, and vulnerability. I followed Sarah onto the small dance floor, adjusting my posture, moving cautiously, every step calculated. The fabric of the dress shifted with each motion, the heels demanding precise balance. Every eye on us intensified the stakes. My internal conflict, fear of embarrassment versus the thrill of living fully in this persona, reached a peak. The exhilaration of cross-dressing, once private and secretive, had transformed into a high-stakes display of poise, courage, and adaptability. Suddenly, the music shifted, and I stumbled slightly, heels slipping on the polished floor. A gasp escaped my lips, and the room's attention flicked momentarily toward me. My heart raced. Could I recover without revealing the tension, the vulnerability, the duality of self? I steadied myself quickly, a nervous laugh masking the panic. Sarah's reassuring grip guided me, helping regain balance, her eyes sparkling with amusement and pride. The incident, though minor, was symbolic. It encapsulated the precariousness of the week, the constant negotiation between confidence and fear, exposure and control, Alex and the persona. Every misstep, every adjustment, every glance carried significance. I realized that the persona had become inseparable from Alex, Not a disguise, but an extension of self shaped by challenge, vulnerability, and courage. By the end of the gathering, I was drained but exhilarated. Walking home with Sarah, each step in the heels felt lighter despite the exhaustion, the persona more natural, more integrated. The suspense of potential exposure had pushed me to new heights of self-awareness, adaptability, and emotional resilience. Back at the apartment, I sank onto the couch, removing the heels carefully, adjusting the dress as I settled. The reflection in the mirror caught my eye, Alex and the persona fully merged, layered, alive. The challenges of the day had tested every aspect of composure, grace, and courage. The week had transformed not just my outward appearance, but my internal sense of identity, confidence, and emotional fortitude. I whispered to myself, breath shaky but exhilarated. This is who I can be. Vulnerable yet strong. Afraid yet daring. Alex, but more. The following morning, the apartment felt unusually tense, charged with anticipation. Today, I knew, would push the boundaries further than any day before. I dressed carefully, selecting a flowing pastel dress with delicate lace detailing along the hem, paired with the tallest heels I had attempted all week. The mirror reflected a mixture of Alex and the persona that had grown more confident, more daring, yet still layered with vulnerability. My phone buzzed. It was Sarah. "Want to grab brunch?" Something casual but fun. The casual tone belied the high stakes. Another public outing meant another test of composure, balance, and secrecy. My chest tightened, and a thrill ran through me. Each outing now carried the risk of exposure, but also the intoxicating exhilaration of fully inhabiting the persona. The streets outside were bustling. Every glance from strangers amplified my awareness. Each step in the heels required precise balance, the skirt swaying delicately with each movement. I was acutely conscious of every gesture, every expression. Alex and the persona had merged almost seamlessly, but the stakes had never been higher. Sarah walked beside me, her presence reassuring yet teasing, a constant reminder that she was observing every nuance of my transformation. At the cafe, we were greeted by friends, some familiar, some new. Compliments flowed freely, some casual, others more pointed, each amplifying my self-consciousness. A spilled coffee, an accidental brush of hands, a sudden laugh. Each moment became a test of composure. I navigated the interactions carefully, conscious of how the persona was perceived, aware of the fragile balance I was maintaining. Then an unexpected challenge arrived. A friend suggested taking group photos, posing together. My pulse spiked. Posing meant movement, body language, expressions, all scrutinized and frozen in an instant. Sarah offered a subtle squeeze of my hand, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "You'll be fine," she whispered. Yet the anxiety coiled tighter in my stomach. Could I maintain composure? Would the heels betray me? Would my dual identity be revealed in a split second? We lined up for the photos. I shifted carefully, heels clicking against the floor, the skirt swaying just so. The camera clicked, capturing the moment, and for a heartbeat, I felt exposed in the most vulnerable yet exhilarating way. Each flash of the camera, each gaze directed at me, amplified the suspense. My reflection in their eyes mirrored both Alex and the persona, inseparable yet distinct, fragile yet bold. The day continued with small challenges, ordering food, carrying drinks, navigating crowded sidewalks. Each movement demanded poise, each glance required awareness. Sarah's presence was both a comfort and a test, her teasing comments heightening the tension while reminding me of the thrill of being observed. By mid-afternoon, exhaustion began to set in. My legs ached from the heels, my mind buzzed with the constant need for vigilance. Yet the exhilaration remained, intertwined with the vulnerability and suspense that had defined the week. I realized that this challenge was no longer about clothes or appearance alone. It was about inhabiting a persona, balancing exposure and secrecy, thrill and fear, Alex and the persona I had cultivated. Returning home, I felt the weight of the week pressing down. Sarah lingered briefly, her eyes catching subtle adjustments in my posture, the tilt of my head, the sway of my skirt. "You're incredible," she whispered. "I've never seen you like this." Her words sent a shiver through me. The suspense had been constant, the fear of exposure ever present, but now it mingled with pride, confidence, and exhilaration. Alone in the apartment, I collapsed onto the couch, heels off, dress settling softly around my legs. The reflection in the mirror caught my eye, Alex, and the persona fully intertwined, layered, real. I ran my hands along the fabric, along my arms, realizing how far I had come in just a week. The suspense, the thrill, the emotional intensity had reshaped not just my appearance, but my sense of self, courage, and identity. Just as I began to relax, a faint sound made me freeze. The door unlocking. My pulse leapt. Sarah? My mom? The possibility of discovery surged through me. I looked toward the door, breath held. Shadows shifted in the hallway. My heart raced. The suspense of exposure, of revelation, of judgment, returned in full force, sharper than ever. The story paused at that moment, the duality of Alex and the persona hanging in perfect, tense balance. What would happen next? Would the secret be revealed? How would Sarah or my mom react? The week's challenge had transformed me, but the ultimate test, the confrontation, the moment of exposure, was yet to come. The apartment was silent, heavy with the weight of anticipation. I sank onto the couch, adjusting the pastel dress around my legs, heels off, breath coming in shallow bursts. My reflection in the window captured Alex and the persona, intertwined, layered, and alive. Every glance reminded me of the past week, the transformations, the challenges, the thrill, and the fear. Then, the sound came again, the door unlocking. My heart froze, hammering against my ribs. Shadows shifted in the hallway. I didn't recognize the silhouette at first. The apartment had been my sanctuary, the place where I had practiced, perfected, and explored. Now, the threshold held uncertainty, exposure, and the possibility of judgment. Sarah stepped inside, but not casually this time. Her eyes were sharp, almost calculating, yet glimmered with excitement. "I thought I'd check on you before heading out," she said, voice light but tinged with curiosity. She paused, taking in the sight of me. Pastel dress perfectly adjusted, heels carefully set aside, hair and makeup flawless. The tension coiled tighter in my chest. "You look different," she said softly, stepping closer. Each word was deliberate, carrying both observation and intrigue. My pulse spiked. Every gesture had to be measured, every expression controlled. One wrong move could unravel the week's work, the persona I had created, and the delicate balance of Alex and this new self. Before I could respond, the phone buzzed. I glanced at it, another message from my mom. "I see you're managing well for now. Don't get too comfortable." The combination of Sarah's gaze and my mom's teasing scrutiny made my stomach twist. The suspense had returned, sharper than ever. The challenge that had begun as playful experimentation had evolved into a high-stakes test of composure, identity, and secrecy. Sarah leaned closer, lowering her voice. "You've done amazingly all week, but I wonder, how far are you willing to go?" Her words hung in the air, teasing yet loaded with unspoken potential. The persona I had built, the elegance, the poise, the confidence, stood fully realized, yet it now faced its ultimate test. Exposure wasn't just possible, it felt imminent. I realized then that the week had done more than teach me about cross-dressing or my mom's challenge. It had revealed the depths of vulnerability and courage, the exhilaration of transformation, and the delicate balance between self-expression and secrecy. Alex and the persona had merged, but the tension of potential discovery remained, a coiled force that refused to relax. Sarah smiled, tilting her head slightly. "I think you're ready for the next part of the challenge. But are you ready for what it might mean?" Her words struck a chord. The thrill of transformation was intertwined with anxiety, the fear of judgment, and the intoxicating possibility of exposure. I nodded, swallowing hard, unsure of whether the answer was yes, but aware that there was no turning back. Then, the unexpected happened. The door opened slightly wider, and another shadow appeared, a neighbor I hadn't anticipated. My body froze. Exposure.
Panic. Thrill.
The room seemed to constrict around me. The persona, carefully cultivated over the week, suddenly felt fragile under the gaze of someone outside the inner circle of trust. Alex and the persona were tested in an instant. Sarah's voice was soft, almost teasing, as if she had orchestrated this tension.
See?
Life throws surprises. Can you maintain balance? The words were a whisper, yet they echoed loudly in my mind. Every heartbeat, every breath, every subtle movement became critical. One misstep, one revealing gesture, and the fragile equilibrium of the week could collapse. I took a deep breath, steadying myself as much as possible. The heels I had set aside earlier seemed to beckon me, a symbol of confidence and transformation. The dress, the makeup, the persona, they were all ready, yet the possibility of discovery loomed over me like a storm cloud. The suspense was unbearable, electrifying, and thrilling all at once. Sarah's gaze locked on mine, expectant, teasing, approving. The neighbor at the door remained just beyond, a silent reminder of exposure, judgment, and risk. I realized then that the week's challenge was far from over. The transformation wasn't just about clothing, it was about courage, identity, and navigating suspense under pressure. As I stood, adjusting the skirt, placing the heels carefully back on, the world outside seemed to pause. Alex and the persona merged fully, poised for the ultimate test. The suspense of discovery, of judgment, of revelation, hung in the air like a fragile thread. And then, just as I took my first step forward, the door creaked slightly, a shadow shifting in the threshold. My breath caught. The week's journey, the transformation, the thrill, the fear, the vulnerability, culminated in a single, suspended moment. The story paused there, leaving everything unresolved. Would I be discovered? How would Sarah or my mom react? Could Alex and the persona endure the final test? The suspense remained, electric and palpable. Every heartbeat, every glance, every subtle movement carried the tension forward. The week had transformed me, but the ultimate challenge, the confrontation, the exposure, the revelation, was still ahead, waiting, just beyond the door.